Hey Denver, it's Bree. I've got something extra for you this afternoon. I loved my conversation with Professor of Fun David Thomas about Casa Bonita so much that I wanted to share a little bit more that didn't fit into this morning's episode. We get into the Casa Bonita versus Meow Wolf debate and talk about, of course, what makes Lakeside so dang magical. Enjoy! So we have this beautiful, nostalgic, immersive experience in Casa Bonita, and some artists in Denver had made these bumper stickers that said, Casa Bonita is better than Meow Wolf. I'm sure you've seen them.
Of course, yeah.
But now we have our own Meow Wolf. Have you been to Meow Wolf?
I have been to the Conversion Station exhibit, but I've also been to the original House of Eternal Return and Omega Mart, so I feel well versed in my Meow Wolf. So let's talk about Meow Wolf.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to me that these have come to be put in comparison with each other because I necessarily wouldn't have thought about them in the same sphere. But what is fun about Meow Wolf?
Well, the same kind of stuff, really. Look at it. I mean, Meow Wolf is set outside. Meow Wolf creates this ambiguity. What am I looking at? Where am I? Where do I go? It's filled. It doesn't have quite as many, but it has ludic forums. Things that you push that are interactive, mysteries to explore. It kind of invites you to play. The reason that I think that there's something really insightful and funny about the Meow Wolf or Casa Bonita is better than Meow Wolf is if you think about it, Meow Wolf is an art gallery. That's what it is. I mean, we think of it as something really completely 100% unique. But trust me, if you look at it, it's an art gallery where you look at art. That's cool. Casa Bonita, for everything else, is a restaurant where you pay money to eat food. What they have in common is they both are inhabiting this world of play. And so I think that that's where the comparison is. So in a way, it's apples to oranges. But when you look at them as play places, I think that saying Casa Bonita is better than Meow Wolf is really saying that Casa Bonita is more successful at deploying a play space than Meow Wolf is. And I agree with that. And that's not a criticism of Meow Wolf because remember, I think let's put it to you this way. Meow Wolf is a much better art gallery than Casa Bonita is a restaurant, right?
Sure.
So in that sense, Meow Wolf just crushes Casa Bonita. But as a play place, I think that Meow Wolf is held back a little bit by its art gallery roots. And it's a little more polished. There's a little bit more a sense of a rope where you shouldn't go past. And I also think they're also beholden to more modern building codes. Convergence Station has a lot of doors, and unfortunately, I think the doors take you out of place because they're forced to put a door so you can climb through a little tunnel to get to a room, but you can exit through a door. It's fire code and it's safe, and I mean, it's appropriate, but it definitely leaves you feeling more like Meow Wolf is less of a playground and more of a place where you go to look at stuff.
That's a great point. I think the fluidity of Casa Bonita, where you're exploring, like you were saying, you're winding through these areas, you're walking, you're discovering something. And Meow Wolf does do that same thing, but you're right. Sometimes you're like, oh, should I go in this door? Is there a door here? And then it does like kind of pull you out of what I feel like is almost like a forced like experience. Like you are experiencing this versus Casa Bonita is like, come on in. Who knows what you're going to find in here?
Casa Bonita does feel a little rudderless at times, doesn't it? It's like, what the hell?
Yes.
It's like a freak out. And ironically, even though Meow Wolf is portrayed as a freak out, it feels very much like there's something going on here. And again, remember my little spiel about art. Even the mysteries of Casa Bonita are like, the mysteries of Meow Wolf. If you take long enough, you can understand how this all fits together. You can piece the mystery together. And so I don't, again, this is not a flaw of Meow Wolf at all. I think it's a strength of how it's expanded our understanding of what art can be and how people can encounter art. And it's remarkable at that. But I just think Meow Wolf is not as fun as Casa Bonita.
Yeah, I agree. If you could leave us with a tip, David, is there anywhere else in Denver that comes close to Casa Bonita in terms of designed fun?
Well, that's a good question. I think Convergence Station would be the next place that's close to designed fun, at least as a standing thing. There are some places that are close. So, of course, we've got Lakeside. And my advice for anyone who's never been to Lakeside is go before dusk because you have to see Lakeside in the daytime and you have to experience the magical transition. Um, because Lakeside is a different place at night, and I think it's wonderful. But if you gave me the whole United States, I would say you should go to the House on the Rock in Wisconsin. It's it's the most mind-numbing place I think I've ever been in my life. It's amazing. I would go to the City Museum in
That's in St. Louis, yeah.
yeah. And so there are places that I think are almost equivalent in a sense of being these really crazy play places. But Denver has Casa Bonita, and it puts it on the map of places that have, you know, I mean, other than going to Disneyland or Disney World, I think Casa Bonita is just right up there. It's in the platinum experiences.
I want to step back to Lakeside for just a minute because I'm also a Lakeside freak. And you make such a good point, the daytime versus nighttime, but the dusk moment, neon lights at dusk, there is no better time to see them. And you're right. You see this transition into a different place. But Lakeside doesn't employ the same things that Casa Bonita does. What do you think it is about Lakeside that employs fun beyond like amusement park rides are meant to be fun, obviously, but it has an atmosphere.
Yeah.
What do you think that is?
Well, I think the difference between Lakeside and Casa Bonita is I think that Lakeside is completely organic and in many sense accidental. I mean, like, there's that one kind of roller coaster that's kind of in the middle, not roller coaster, Ferris wheel thing that's in the middle that's just abandoned.
Right.
There's trees growing up through it. And I'm like, boy, what courage it would take a designer to say, just leave that, right? But it's there, you know? And it acts the same way as like the Casa Bonita waterfall because you're like your brain looks at that and you're like, what happened here?
Yes.
You know, it's telling stories. Is this haunted? Is this sacred? Native American ground? You don't even know. You know, or you're like, are they just lazy and they just didn't tear it down? I mean, you can't decide. And that's why I think that transitional moment when you can see the dirt and the grime and the lack of repair, and then it goes to dusk and then the lights come on, and then you feel like, I don't know, are you in this romantic movie? Or are you in this horror movie? Is it, you don't know. It's like it tells you a whole different story. And so, and a lot of the other things, because the spine of a theme park's there, again, there's not a lot of straight lines. There's lots of curves in Lakeside. It invites you to explore. The lights in particular really, draw your attention different ways, the sounds, the smells. So partly Lakeside would be a decent place if it was, spiffed up and it was run like Elitch's, but it would definitely lose atmosphere because as you turn a theme park an amusement park into an amusement park, kind of they're all the same, right? There's not much that makes Elitch's in Denver any different from a Six Flags somewhere else. I mean, they're fun, but Lakeside's unique because of in some sense, because of its lack of design, some of its lack of repair, the fact that you can see the layers of history kind of laid on top of each other. And boy, is it ambiguous. I mean, you kind of don't know if you're going to live or die when you get on a ride, so...
I have to say I've gained more of an affinity for Elitch's over time as it's gotten more busted looking, like sun faded, and like I'm like, oh, but you're right, it's got that like, is it like Lakeside has this, is it haunted or is it romantic vibe? And that's exactly the feeling that you get when you're under neon lights on a ride that's like, this could be really beautiful, or are we going to die?
Yeah, there's an axe-wielding maniac. I think this is one thing I think about the architecture of fun. I teach young architects how to do this, and so it's from a design standpoint, right? Like, I want it to happen. But every kid knows that places can take on their own play, There's an abandoned tough shed in the woods that the neighborhood kids start to describe as, old Jack's murder shed, and then the lore and the decay, and after a while, just approaching this thing starts to become an adventure. And I think that's what's important about fun play is it's not under human control to design it. I mean, it can be, but it can also just be found. It can be found, the traditional thing. It can be found with a can and a stick, and kids will play with it. A cardboard box can invoke fun. And so I think Lakeside's a good example of how fun can kind of accumulate. I think Casa Bonita is a great example of how fun can be designed, built, and stand the test of time, almost in spite of itself.